always, if you know you like some props in your practice, or even if you're not sure, I always recommend just having them nearby. That way you don't have to exert yourself more than necessary to find them. So it can be anything. It can be typical yoga props like blocks and bolsters and blankets, or it can just be stuff you have around the house. So it can be like couch pillows, regular pillows, towels. Um, can even use books as blocks, not so much for when we're supporting, but if you need a little bit more lift in the legs, if you're near your bookshelf like I am, you can always slide some books underneath. Um, so we'll get started sitting today. And you're welcome to sit up on a blanket or a towel. And for these first few moments of class, just do whatever you want with the legs, whatever you want with the body. If you want to move around a little bit, maybe you just rolled out of bed, maybe you got up early and took a walk, or did a little work, or just watched some TV or read a book. Just start to check in and tune in with your body. And you can keep a little movement going, or if at some point you feel like you want to just pause where you are, that is perfect as well. So you can just pause. And remember, anything you want with the legs, anything you want with the arms as we settle in here. Just using these first few moments of class to tune in with your body and your breath. Soften the shoulders away from the ears. You're always welcome to close your eyes or just soften your gaze. Relax the jaw. Relax the space between your eyebrows. Relax the cheeks and the ears. And just start to notice your breath. Feel the air move in and out. Just a few more rounds of breath here, really settling into your body, settling into the space. Perhaps you're noticing or just observing anything that might be going on around you. Maybe it's directly in the space that you're in, maybe it's in the next room, maybe it's outside. I'm just recognizing that you can't control those sounds. Just inviting them to be a part of your practice. Let's take one more deep breath here. And wherever your legs were, go ahead and switch. So if they were crossed, maybe you switch the cross. or just extend them out long. If they were extended long, maybe you come into a crisscross. And then interlace the hands like you're holding hands with yourself. And then just start to kind of roll the wrists. Almost like you're going to create a figure 8. It's okay if you hear a little crickle and crackle, like mine always do it. And then wiggle the fingers. And then let's roll the shoulders. And go the other direction. And roll the ankles. So if they're crossed underneath you, maybe just take them out for a moment. Wiggle the toes. And then start to bring the soles of the feet together and the knees wide. So coming into these butterfly legs. Doesn't matter how close the feet are towards you, like to you, or how far away they are from you. They might be more of like a diamond shape. It might be a little bit of a more of a rhombus. And then feel free to slide some props underneath the knees for support, especially if you feel like you're working really hard to hold the knees up. And then sit up nice and tall. Feel like you have a string at the top of your head and it's gently pulling all the way up to the sky, fingertips down to the ground. And on your inhale, reach the arms all the way up, getting as tall as you can. And you might feel a little like you're balancing here just because of the way that we have our legs, and that's okay. Feel like you're reaching through the sides of the body. And then release the arms down. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. And exhale, release them down. One more. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. And exhale, release them down. We're going to reach them all the way up, but this time we're going to twist over to the right. So staying tall through the spine, pretend like you're trying to rinse out the spine. Keep lengthening and then rotating as much as your body wants to rotate here. One more. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up, back to center. And exhale, twist over to the other side. Your sides are gonna feel different even though you're in a rotation. Inhale, lengthen through the spine. And exhale, open the heart. One more breath. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up to the sky. And then exhale, reach your hands forward. So as far forward as they want to go. So they might reach ahead of your feet. They might just land on your legs. They might land on your toes. But when you first get there, you're going to feel like you're lengthening through the spine. So you will find a place where you kind of get stuck when you're keeping the spine long. And that's where I want you to stay. And you even might back it up just a little bit. So get stuck and then reverse just a smidge. And then from there, you can round the spine. And these are all just options. You're always welcome to keep the spine long. You can release the head and the neck. Take just a couple more breaths here. Remember, you never have to be completely still. If your body wants to kind of move a little bit, go for it. And then nice and slow, start to lengthen your spine to bring yourself up. Bring your hands behind you like you're leaning back on a lounge at the beach. Bring the knees up to the sky, walk the feet a little bit apart, and then just windshield wiper the legs a little bit. Just adding a bit of movement, also releasing off of the sit bones. We'll start to make our way into a tabletop position. So if there's anything that you want on the way to your tabletop, take it. Or however you want to get there, you can roll over the feet like I just did, or you can just kind of swing the legs to one side. But starting to make your way onto your hands and your knees. And when you first get there, you can move through some cat-cows. They can be your typical cat-cows. You can add a little side movement to it. If being on your hands is not comfortable, you know you always have the option to drop onto your forearms. And you'll still do the same movements. You're just not putting pressure on the wrists. And then start to bring the toes together and the knee as wide as you want, as you press the hips towards your heels, coming into a child's pose. So you're always welcome to slide something behind the knees or underneath the torso or both. If it feels okay, you can come all the way down. If you're looking at me and you see me lifted, I'm just staying a little lifted so you can keep hearing my voice. Connect with your breath. And maybe you even feel like the sit bones or like your booty is trying to press towards your feet a little bit more. It doesn't really matter if it actually moves, but it's just creating a little extra length in the lower back. Couple more breaths here. And slowly start to pull yourself back to your tabletop position. And always slide something underneath the knees. Extend your right leg behind you. You can keep the toes curled under. And maybe start to press the heel back, just stretching through the back of the leg. And then lift the leg up as much as it wants to go. So it might be a centimeter, it might be an inch, it might be a foot. And then bring the knee to the nose and start to slide it between your hands. So it doesn't matter how many steps it takes to get there. And you can bring your hands to the top of your thigh. Maybe start to feel the hips press a little bit more forward. But remember, when we press our hips forward, we want to almost feel as if we're pulling the right hip back as we bring the left hip forward so that they're working together, even though they are in little different places. Really press it down through the front foot and the back leg. It's okay to feel a little wobbly. Tune in with your breath. One more. Hands back to the ground. Slide the right leg back to meet the left. And right away, let's extend the left leg back, especially because we just had a lot of pressure on that left leg. Keep the toes curled under, press the heel back. Start to lift the leg up as much as it wants to go. Start to play with your balance. And then bring the knee in and start to bring it up between the hands. It doesn't matter how many steps it takes to get there. Walk your hands up the leg. You can keep your hands on your thigh or bring your hands to your hips. Feel like you're trying to press the hips forward, but don't forget they want to work together. Use your breath to hold you. Your sides are going to feel totally different. One more. Hands to the ground. Slide the left leg back to meet the right. And start to come all the way onto your belly. So it doesn't matter how you worm your way there. Definitely taking some pressure off the knees and the legs. So maybe you lift the feet and windshield wiper the legs from side to side. And you can keep the upper body lowered down. Maybe make a pillow with your hands, or you can turn one cheek to the mat and have your arms by your side. Let's take a couple of breaths here, settling in. Maybe as you breathe, you almost feel like you're pushing the floor away. And then letting it come back in. You can really feel the way your breath moves when your belly's on the ground. Couple more. And then start to prop yourself up onto your forearms, coming into a Sphinx pose. So your elbows are about underneath your shoulders. They can always be a little bit more forward. And almost feel as if you're trying to lift your belly button away from the floor. It's a little bit of a weird cue, not a lot of a weird cue. But think back to when we were in that child's pose not too long ago, and I encourage you to feel what it feels like, almost just to press your hips back towards your feet a little bit more. It's almost the same action, except we're just feeling the way that we feel the movement in a different way. Just one more breath. Open the heart, feel like the shoulder blades are trying to pull together. And then just slowly start to lower all the way down. Rock your hips. Bring your hands right by your rib cage, create little chicken wings, and then start to lift your head and your heart up. So really working from the back body. You're gonna keep feeling that action like you're trying to lift your belly button away from the ground. And then release the forehead down. Inhale, baby cobra. Really feel that work coming from the back body. And release the forehead down. One more, lift up, baby cobra. And release the forehead down. Press yourself up to your tabletop. Hang out in tabletop for a few moments. You can do some cat-cows, you can rock the hips, you can adjust your clothes. Moving with your breath. And you can stay in your tabletop or start to curl your toes under and press your hips up and back to a downward dog. Whatever you want when you get to your downward dog. You can pedal out the feet, a little bend into the knees. Remember, if you feel more dizzy or if your body doesn't love the inversion, and inversion doesn't mean standing on your head, it just means that your heart is above your head, which it is in down dog. You can stay in tabletop. And to get that same sensation through the backs of the legs, you'll just do what we did a few moments ago and just extend the legs back. And then start to walk your hands and your feet towards each other. So we're landing in the middle of our mat. And right away, we're going to come all the way to stand. So moving really mindfully. Take a moment when you arrive. Relax the shoulders. Relax the jaw. Feel your feet root into the ground. Maybe you play with the weight shifting from side to side, or even front to back. Feel the weight go to your toes and then to your heels. I was like, I'm definitely a side rocker. So I'm trying to go back, forward, and back is a little bit more challenging, but it's good to invite something new. All right, just one more breath, settling in, just adjusting to this standing. Then you'll turn to the side of your mat if you're on a mat. And then take your feet really wide as they want to go here. Just taking up all of the real estate of your mat. Your hands can stay on your hips. And then turn your right toes towards the top of the mat. So whatever direction that is, you want to just turn the toes out to the side. Keep your hands on your hips. And your hips might rotate a little bit. So you'll feel that left hip almost like it wants to pull a little bit forward, almost like you're going to turn your torso a little bit towards the right. I want your hips to do that, but then try to rotate the spine back to center. It's probably not going to go the whole way, and that's okay. Our hips have a natural rotation, so we want to make sure we accommodate for that. And then just nice and slow, just bend into the knee a bit, and then straighten, and bend, and straighten, and bend, and straighten. And then the next time you bend, pause. Doesn't matter how deep that bend is, I'm not going to get a protractor out and come into your zooms and look. Really feel the feet rooting down. Press it down into the feet and almost feel like the heels are trying to hug towards each other. You can keep your hands on your hips or bring them out into a T, and that can kind of help the spine rotate a little bit more. Gazing over your front fingertips. That feels okay on your neck. One more breath. Straighten that right leg. Turn all 10 toes back to the side of the mat. And then turn your left toes to the top. And again, your hips are going to rotate a bit. That's okay. See if you can rotate the spine. And then a little bend and straighten. And you'll do this a couple of times before you pause. And the next time you bend, you can pause there. Again, it doesn't matter how deep that bend is. Really focus on rooting down through the feet, building strength in the legs. If it feels okay, you can bring your arms up into a T. The sides will likely feel a bit different. One more breath. Press into your feet, rise all the way up. Turn all 10 toes to the side. Heel toe your feet back together. You can also just walk them back together. And then just roll out the ankles. You'll do one at a time. You'll lift both feet off the ground, you'll fall. Very funny, I hope you laughed. All right, and then just shake the legs out. All right, we're gonna come back into that wide stance, feet wide. This time you'll turn both toes out, or both feet out. You have more than 2 toes probably. Hands at your hips. And then just like we do when we were coming into that warrior two, but this time we're gonna do the legs together, do a little bend and then straighten. A little bend and a little straight. And a bend and a straighten. And then we'll start to bend and we'll pause. Doesn't matter how far you go. Hands can stay on your hips. Notice where the weight is shifting. Keep the feet rooting into the ground. And maybe even when you get there, you rock a little bit, side to side. Nice deep bend. You can always rest your hands on your legs, but I really want you to feel the work in your legs. Couple more breaths. One more. and straighten through the legs. Bring the legs back together. Shake them out. All right, and then we're gonna come into a balance here. So, as always, you can set yourself up near something, a bookshelf, a wall, a chair, or you can be in the middle of your space. We'll shift the weight into the right foot, and then just start to bring the left foot up. So it doesn't matter how high that up is. It can be like an inch off the ground, it can be a foot off the ground. You can always hold on to the knee. And then you're gonna turn the knee out to the side as far as it wants to go. So think back to kind of that goddess pose that we did a few moments ago. This is our goddess. And then you'll place the foot somewhere on the leg. We're gonna become a tree. Try to avoid placing it right on the knee, maybe a little bit below or above. And you can even have the toes on the ground and just be right at your ankle. That will give you added support. And most likely we kind of sink into that right hip, but see if we can hug the right hip in. Maybe bring our hands to our heart center. Find something in front of you that's not moving. Maybe reach the right arm, just the right arm up to the sky. These are all just options. And maybe you reach the right arm up and overhead. So coming into a little side lean, almost like you're a banana tree or a tree banana. And you can even hold on to something and kind of find that side bend. Really having that arm up overhead is probably going to make you weebly wobbly. And it's okay if your ankle feels a little shaky. It's just trying to find your balance. We're only here for one more breath. Come all the way back up. Release the foot. Pause before you shake it out. Just observe, notice. And then if you still want to shake it out now, shake it out. And then you'll shift the weight into your left foot and start to lift the right foot off the ground. Have a little memory loss. The sides are totally different. Tune in with your breath. And then maybe the knee starts to come out to the side. And place the foot somewhere on the leg. Again, try to avoid the knee. Maybe a little bit below, maybe a little bit above. And you might even, when you first get there, feel like you're exaggerating that left hip popping out. So that way you can really notice when you start to pull it in. So hug the left hip in. It's going to make you taller. Really root down into the ground. Arms can be wherever's comfortable. You want to play a little bit more. Maybe the left arm reaches up to the sky. And maybe it leans over to the right. Again, you can just focus on the lean. And if you are leaning, didn't mention this on the other side, but it is okay to start to pop that hip out. It's going to help you offset your balance and let your body find your center. One more breath. Bring yourself all the way up. Release the leg down. Pause before you shake it. And then if you still want a little shake, go ahead and shake it out. Roll out the ankles. And then reach the arms all the way up to the sky. Get really tall and long. And exhale, release the arms down. We're staying standing. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. And release the arms down. One more. Inhale, reach the arms up. And release the arms down. Roll the shoulders. Roll them the other way. And then start to come back to sit. If you want anything on the way there, go for it. Start to find a comfortable place to pause. And we'll eventually extend the legs out in front of us, coming into a straddle. So it doesn't matter how wide the legs are. Sit up nice and tall through the spine. And you can stay right here. If you're good here, stay here. Or you can lean a little forward. You don't have to keep the spine straight like we did early on in class. You can come right into a little rounding if that feels okay. And remember, you can always sit up on a blanket. You can always slide extra support behind the knees. Even if there's a bend in the knees, you're still stretching the backs of the legs. You're just accommodating for what your body's feeling this morning. And you decide, your feet can be flexed so they can make your legs a little bit more active, or they can relax. Totally up to you today. It's always up to you. But just reminding you. You're gonna stay with a little lean forward, or even if you're more upright, but we're just gonna rotate towards the right. Doesn't matter how far you go. You might get to either side of the leg with the hands, or you might just be right on the middle. And walk back to center and over to the other side. Again, doesn't matter how far you go. One more breaths. Walk your hands back to center. Bring yourself all the way up. Shake out the legs. Roll out the ankles. Then come to a crisscross with the legs. If you don't like crisscross, just ignore me and keep the legs out. Hands towards the legs, and let's do a couple of seated cat-cows. So really round the spine, really over-exaggerate this movement. Feel like you're trying to create space through the back of every bone in your spine. Now that you've taken them really far apart, I want you to just come forward and feel like you're trying to squeeze them all back together. Round the spine, create lots of breathing room in the back body. And then create breathing room in the front body. Let's do one more. Round the spine. And open the heart. Then come all the way back to neutral. And start to make your way all the way to your backs. We're coming to lay down. We're not coming into Shavasana yet, but if you know you like props for Shavasana, make sure they're within hand's reach, so that way you don't have to get up again to get them. And then take a few moments when you first arrive on your back if there's any movement that you want. And then placing the feet on the ground. So the knees are pointing up to the sky. And reach for a pillow or a blanket near you. I'm gonna just grab my dog's towel here, or her blanket. Press into the feet, and then just slide that underneath your low back. So it doesn't matter how much of a lift it gives your hips. I just want your hips to have a little lift. If your hips don't like having a little lift, keep the booty on the ground. And then just start to extend just one leg out in front of you. So maybe breathing a little bit of extra space into the front of the hip. If at any point you feel pain in the lower back, remove a prop if you have a prop underneath you. If you don't have a prop underneath you and you're feeling pain in the lower back, see how it feels to slide something underneath the straight leg. Just trying to relieve, or like the thigh, so it just relieves a little bit of that pressure in the low back. You can do whatever you want with the arms. Connect with your breath. Couple more breaths on this first leg. And then start to straighten your first leg and extend your other leg out. And again, your sides might feel different, so maybe you remove a prop on this side, a prop on this side. Again, breathing Maybe a little bit of extra space into the front of the straight leg hip. Last breath. And slowly start to straighten that leg. Remove any props you had underneath you. Pause when the hips come back down and windshield wiper the knees a bit side to side, just neutralizing the spine. And start to hug your knees into your chest and let the knees drop over to the right. So we're coming into a spinal twist. So you can always have props between the knees or underneath the legs. Bring the knees all the way back to the center and drop them to the other side. Last couple of breaths. Start to bring the knees all the way back to center. Hug the knees in. Any final movements or rocks that you want. Any kind of snap, crackle, pops that you want to find. And then begin to set yourself up for your final Shavasana. So you can let the legs fall out in front of you, arms fall by your side, and that's where your Shavasana is. Or you can roll to your side. Or you can throw your legs up a wall, or on a chair, or on a couch, or on a sleeping pet. And really just using these last few minutes of class in complete and total gratitude for your practice today. Shavasana. And slowly starting to bring some awareness back into the space. And starting to bring some awareness and back into the body. Wiggling your fingers and your toes. Rolling out wrists and ankles. And rocking your head from side to side. Stretching your arms up overhead, taking a full body stretch all the way from your fingers to your toes. And eventually rolling onto your side if you're not already there. And eventually making your way up into a comfortable seat. Keeping your focus inside. Bringing your hands to your heart center, gently bowing your head. Thanking yourself for making it to your mat today, for your practice, your energy, your breath, and most importantly, for yourself. Namaste.